Meeting to order, March 26, 6:30 p.m. All rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. Thanks. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thanks for coming this afternoon.
Nut job.
Mr. Secretary, can you assure us that we had proof of notice and established a quorum?
The notice was properly posted, and we have a quorum. We have 4 present and 1 absent.
And your report for this evening?
Okay. Having read these ahead of time, I would ask for a motion to accept the minutes as presented without a full reading.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second that.
Any comments from the floor on that? Any from the board? All in favor, say aye.
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 Motion passed.
Correspondence. I'll tried to put these into categories so I don't read every single one of them. These are all the ones that have been received since the last meeting. We have one about the air compressor not working at the car wash. By the way, each of these have already been sent either to the management company or to the person on the board that's responsible for that area. Had a comment about the bagel shop, wanting to know when it was going to open, and also the same person asked about all the braces that are on the trees, wanting to know when they might be removed. I think that question was answered satisfactorily by Matt. Have 2 issues about some of the machines over at the workout center. Those are being addressed. Had 2 comments about bridges. One was about a patch job that had been done that had not been painted, and the other had mold on it, and that was forwarded also. Had a comment about a car theft in a driveway. Turned out they were missing items from an unlocked car. We had a question about the protocol to announce court closings on rainy days. A question about an electric fountain in a yard. Fire hydrant painting issue was discussed, and it was pointed out that one has been painted satisfactorily, and we ought to look into that for the rest of them. We had a question about garage door colors, whether or not we could all had to be white. We have 2 different comments about different days that the gas pumps were not working. A question about golf cart parking and why it's not being used since we now have a specified area for that. Have 4 irrigation issues from different folks in this time frame. Had a mowing question that was about mostly about the protocol of whether they mow both sides of the street in the same day or whatever, and that was answered satisfactorily. A question about night lights on Wahoo Drive. Evidently, those kick on automatically at some person's house, and when you walk down the path next to it, it's so bright that it's blinding. We have an overnight truck parking issue. A truck had been parked on a street for 2 days and seemed unattended. That was looked into by management. An issue with the pickleball lights turning off too soon. A question about the pool gates timer. Had the timer been changed since the time change? A question about recycling with some suggestions on how to approach that, and I think that's going to be a later issue discussed by management. A request for a copy of the directory, and that person was directed to, I think that person might have been a renter. They were wondering if they were able to get copies, and that was also, I believe Ray took care of that. Ray had a comment from somebody wanting him to speak at a coffee. I have no idea what he would talk about.
I'm going to do it in May. It's going to be really spectacular.
I bet it will be. Can I sit in? I'd like to see it.
Yes, you may.
Okay, good. We had a street rain debris issue. Someone complaining about the fact that all the stuff falls off the trees after it rains, and obviously we can't sweep the streets with a street sweeper every time it rains. We had a question about Tammy's resignation. One person was a little put out that we didn't hear about it very much and really wanted to make a bigger deal out of it, which I think Tammy did not want. We had a question about an issue that's going to be on the agenda tonight as an action item about an additional tennis pro. We had another comment about the channels in the fitness center with suggestions on what should be on those TVs. A comment about unleashed dogs, and a reminder was sent back to this person just reminding them that in this complex we do keep our dogs on leashes. And finally, a very good suggestion from someone that once the road over here to our west is completed, that we add a very large arrow underneath where it says Village Walk, because right now some of us try to turn in there, and certainly once the road's there, people are going to start turning there too soon. So I think it's an excellent idea, and I think Matt was going to look into that with someone. That's all the correspondence that I received in the last month. Matt?
Thank you. Thank you very much, Mr. Secretary. My comments tonight, the pickleball project has been on everybody's minds for a while, but the engineer has been calling every single day, and today, while playing golf, we corresponded numerous times. He waited there 8 hours at Bonita Springs today, waiting for them to come out of the review process for our pickleballs, and has received no answer yet. So that will be ongoing tomorrow, and I will be on that also. Restaurant, we plan on screening the small portico in that's there now, and we'll see what kind of volume is utilizing it, and we'll see what happens at that point, since the city wants too much from us to do an extension, so we'll do what we can do without the city. Hole in one, today was supposed to be a final inspection from the city. Tomorrow, she's supposed to have a cleaning group in there to clean everything up so that she can meet a sanitary inspection on Friday. And then she will bring her equipment in over the weekend. That's what her plan is. Hopefully, that'll be followed through. If you notice people walking behind your house, driving metal rods in the ground, in Quad 1, the irrigation company is going to properly ground the equipment, so hopefully we'll lose less equipment during lightning strikes. Right now, if the lightning hits 10 houses from you, it runs the whole wire and blows everything out all the way back to the pump. So we're trying to avoid that through some modifications. So you may see that. They're also continuing to do the erosion around the lake banks. There was 48 locations that we deemed major, and you'll see them putting plastic down, larger stones, and dirt, and then sod on top of that. The browner sod is more like the stuff they used to pack in boxes years ago. I can't think of the name of it. No, styrofoam years ago, come on. No, did you ever see the brown stuff they used to pack in boxes? But anyway, once that gets wet, when the rainy season comes in, you'll see that start to green up a little bit. It roots now, and then when it gets a lot of water, it'll start to grow. Above that, they're putting the real grass again that we normally have. So you'll see a two-tone section for a while. They're doing all the major ones, and then we're going to go back and pick some of the minor ones and try to do some of them. That's required through the CDD and South Florida Water Management District. So that's going to be an ongoing thing. Over on Danios, we had a collapsed pipe. When we had all the pipes cleaned, they noticed that one of the drains going from the street to the lake had collapsed, and that had to be repaired. So they went back there with a backhoe and resolved that issue yesterday. So that should be cleaned up. And I'm going to appoint 2 liaisons tonight. One is going to be Ray to the tennis. I was the liaison there, so we're going to let Ray take that over. And Randy is going to be the liaison for the activities association or committee. So just so you guys know, if you have anything to bitch about, go to them now. And that's it for me. So Vice President, who is away, Bruce is out of town today. So we'll go to Vice President number 2, which would be Ray.
Okay, good evening, everyone. I've been given a couple of tasks from my superior here, Matt, and so far it's going pretty well. My first task was to look into the feasibility of a generator, and we've gotten a couple of prices. There's a permanent generator or there's a portable generator. The prices are really vast in difference, and we're looking at the cost, and there's a lot of electrical costs involved. And in the event of a storm, you know, we do want to look into it. We might want to do it because it can be a cooling center, it could be a command center, we can have Wi-Fi. So we're going to move forward, and Oliver, who's on the ACC, is going to assist me in that endeavor. And number two, the playground, the previous board and this board, I guess, has, it was approved up to $25,000 to spend on the new playground. And we had a couple of choices. The board voted. We picked one that runs $21,038. The company is called Outback Sport Yards. They said, well, we looked over 10 bids by 4 companies, and they said it'd be about 5 weeks to complete. And I think we gave them a deposit check. And finally, I would just say that the board, and myself included, of course, we believe that the young children here, the young parents, the grandparents, they deserve to have their amenities upgraded also, just like everybody else. So it's been approved, and you're going to see it come about. And that's about what I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you, Ray. Treasurer's report.
Financials, we're 2 months into the year. Some positive month-end February numbers. We're running 2% behind budget on expenses. A favorable variance of about $22,000 on year-to-date budget amount of $1,230,000. So we're in good shape on that. Also, I always give an update on receivables. Currently, we are owed about $150,000. Curiously, half of that is under 60 days, and half of it is over 60 days. We have 9 accounts in collection right now. We have collected about $12,000 in the past 6 weeks. So we have an effective collections program. We're really pleased by these results. And we are going to make a motion later this evening to put another account into collection. We are also making a motion regarding gate and amenities shutoffs for people who are 90 days in arrears. And that will hopefully prompt people to call the office to work out a balance. To the extent that some of the errors might be administrative, we want to work that out so that we can have a fresh start going forward into the year. We have some other projects that are mentioned beyond the finances, which are in good shape. We're also, I will add, working closely with Ahmad at the home office, investing reserve funds. I saw one today. It was going from 0.8% interest to 2.8%. So we will see more investment income in this year than we've seen in the past, which is good move forward. We had a little bit of a delay getting all of our savings accounts and CDs under our control. That is now complete, so we've gotten about 25 accounts, individual IRAs and bank accounts that are now under our control, and we are starting the year with effective management of those. So that's good news. On another front, we have some landscape enhancements planned. We'll be doing some additional landscaping by the gazebo. We will also be adding some benches, 3 benches, behind the fitness center so that the boaters can sit down and look at the boats in the lake, and people taking a walk can sit down and look at the beautiful view. That is in the works, in addition to some tree additions that we're going to make. And I had a ride around with Antonio from Land Care today, some other enhancements, filling in our plantings along the fence in the front, and just continuing our upgrade. We're also looking at El Maco Circle, putting annuals in there, adding more color. That was a successful upgrade last year, and refreshing some of the minor plants at the monument and also the Four Corners. So we have a commitment to keeping the community looking great, and those are just steps in that direction. Let me see if I have one other thing. We're making some progress on planning the upgrade of this room. We're certainly very pleased with what's been done with our foyer and great room. Meeting room is in the works now. We've met with 2 designers and we're looking at our options for wall covering and floor covering. So that's very exciting for the community. And that's my report. Thank you.
Thanks, Bill. Secretary's comments. Randy?
Can I have a question real quick on the treasurer's report?
Yes.
Bill, I didn't hear you say anything about how are we doing on the special assessment collections?
We have 18 accounts still that are unpaid on the $600. Those now are at 90 days, so we will have a motion later this evening about the shutoffs of gate and amenities. Those accounts will now be covered in that shutoff, so it will prompt people to make a call, so hopefully we can get that at 100%, Randy.
Thanks.
I will add that the office has been great making individual calls to people who are behind. I mentioned the half of the accounts being under 60 days. We find about 40 accounts miss their first quarter payment, which is highly unusual. So we're looking into the possibility that there might be a systems glitch, that these people think they're on auto pay and they aren't. So individual calls are being made on that front also, which should help the collections.
Randy, your comments?
No, I have no comments
All
tonight.
right. We'll move on to General Manager. Tom.
Hello, everybody. Thanks for bearing with me the last 30 days or so. It's been really fun working with the board and meeting everybody, so thank you. Following up on that, does everyone understand ClickPay? Does anyone ever have any issues? No, you don't understand it? Okay, it's an online payment portal. It's through KW, so perhaps we could just do a little education on ClickPay, because I think there may be some misunderstanding on paying the assessment versus the special assessment versus the regular assessment. So we'll look into that and maybe just work with you on that. Does everyone understand where to send your assessment to the P.O. Box in Orlando? Is there any issues with that? No? Okay. Recycling is kind of something that's being talked about. Does everyone understand recycling? I just assume everyone does, because I've been recycling my whole life. But there's paper and plastic and aluminum, and sometimes those get separated, sometimes they're mixed. Okay, good. So we're going to get some recycling containers, and then we'll do a little, maybe a seminar or something, send out some information about that.
Containers for where?
Well, we'll put them in the town center around the pool. So there'll be ones for paper, ones for just bottles and cans. Yeah, good. I'm glad you're enthusiastic about that. That's kind of a pet peeve of mine, to not recycle. Oh, really? Okay. So this is very timely. Very good. Don't forget about the garage sale, March 30. It's a Sunday, Saturday? Okay, March 30. And then irrigation and landscaping, does everyone know that you can log on to your resident login and choose irrigation or landscaping and create a ticket, and then on Wednesdays, we actually physically go out there? Okay, sometimes I just get emails and I just ask you to please log on and put that so that we can record that in the system. And then as far as what KW is doing for the association, I know that we're sort of a new management company for you still a little bit. We're trying to get the front office really, really tight so that everybody in KW is trained, even as far as the gas pumps, how to reset those. So there's standard operating procedures that we're creating, and we're educating everybody so that we can make things a lot more smoothly for you when you come to us. Lastly, there's a preventative maintenance initiative by KW. It's to protect your assets, your property, plant, and equipment, so we're very proactive on doing that. There's just a lot that goes on behind the scenes that is a benefit to you, so I just want to make you aware of that. Sometimes you don't always see me or Kim but we're working a lot behind the scenes and with the board on making this community great, like Bill just mentioned. So that's all for me. Thank you very much.
Thanks, John. All right, we have a few action items tonight. First one is delinquent home suspension of use, and I believe Bill has a motion.
Yes, consistent with our collections policy of sending accounts into collection that are over 90 days and in excess of $950 in arrears, I'd like to make a motion to put lot number 0563 and lot number 1264 to legal for collections.
I'd second that motion. Any comments from the floor? Well, first, since I don't hear anything, then board, do you guys have any comments on that?
I'm good with that.
Hearing no comments, all in favor say aye.
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 Motion pass.
Sec-
Okay, we also have a second motion, I understand.
The second motion, again, is just a confirmation of our collections policy, sending accounts that are in excess of 90 days overdue to shut off access, amenity access, and the gate barcodes.
And I'll also second that motion. Any comments from the floor? Do you guys understand what that means? If you owe $10, your amenities and barcodes are going to get shut off until you rectify that. So any amount over 90 days, effective tonight, just making sure everybody understands that, and we'll see what shakes out of the tree. Seeing no comments from the floor, any comments from the board? Hearing none, all in favor? Say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion pass. Okay. Events and activity insurance waivers, we have none, so we'll table that till next week. The event room remodeling, you guys know that we're pursuing that, and that's got a bit of a time frame on it because we do use these rooms for events. So tonight I'm going to make a motion that the board approves spending $131,525, which is in the reserve account, on remodeling the event rooms, upgrading the AV, and adding an additional storage over to the right.
Starting when?
Starting July and August. Do I hear a second?
Second.
I'm sorry? Till it's complete. Once you start it, you can't stop. But Noel would like it to be done by the end of August, so we're trying to. Have a second. Do I have any other comments from the floor? Hearing none. Any comments from the board? All in favor, please say aye.
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 Motion pass. Let's see. Second motion we have tonight is to allow a second professional certified USPTA or PTR instructor to give instructions to Village Walk residents on Village Walk property. I would entertain a second.
Second the motion.
Any comments from the floor?
Why? Is it that there's that much demand?
A resident asked us to bring that to the board, and we're bringing it to the floor.
A resident?
A resident, yes.
What is
What is what? It's a certain certification that we require here, along with $1 million worth of insurance coverage also. And if we decide to accept one, then obviously we'd have to advertise that, try to find the most experienced person, the best qualified for this community, and we'll add a second. As it stands right now, we have one.
have we done a study? Need for one?
Well,
Just somebody's,
the existing tennis pro doesn't think we need one. The tennis community, the tennis committee has recommended against it, adding a second at this time. I want to take that recommendation, but we're putting it to the floor motion right now, so everybody can understand it. So
would this be a paid position?
it is not a paid position. And I should have you go to the mic when you comment. Any other comments from the floor? Yes, go to the mic, please.
Sue Wade, Islet Trail. My question was, really, it's more of a general one. Some of us felt like the naming of a tennis pro really did not involve much input from the tennis community. It came up kind of like as a side item the latter part of last year, and then this year we were told, we had requested another lady, Kathy Ebert-Dearden, to instruct some of the women in the tennis community. She went through all the certification process, and at that time, put her application in through the board. And she's had lots of communication with both the tennis committee and the board, and I'm not privy to all of those. We were just asking that be considered, number one. Number two, when you look at the position description that was written for the tennis pro, There's parts of it that seem to be a bit vague. And my question is, number one, what is the legal liabilities of not having a tennis pro in our community?
The legal liability, it's our choice. It's the board's choice whether we want one or not.
I guess what I'm trying to understand is what would be the legal liability? I don't understand that.
Most tennis communities, and if I'm wrong, you guys that play tennis more can explain it, have a tennis pro, and they generally do instructions on property. They're insured, verified that they're insured, and they protect the HOA's assets. That's the primary reason for having one named, so that you can make sure they're covered properly. And that's what we did. We gave them a job description because there's other services that we can use them for, like taking care of the ball machine, making sure people are trained on that, whatever stuff Rex has him look after once in a while. So that was, I guess, the reason why the previous manager came up with a job description, which we seem to be content with. We haven't heard anything from the tennis committee otherwise, so
We didn't really have a good open discussion at the last tennis committee meeting. There was some discussion, but I don't know that we really had the opportunity to give very much
that's
input.
out of my realm. I just take
Yeah.
their recommendations, and they recommended against having another pro.
Secondly, that when you talk to the tennis pros in the other communities, they are not allowed to live in those communities, number one. And number two, they give instruction in that community only. Does our tennis pro have the opportunity to give lessons here and elsewhere?
Not that I know of. I know that he just gives here that I've been told. I don't follow him around.
You might
And
want
I
to do
don't-
some more
and we
due
don't have
diligence
that-
on that.
Well, we don't have that rule that he can't. They may have that rule. Unfortunately, we don't. I also know the other communities don't allow outside instructors just walking in on their territory.
No, they don't.
So it's.
They are paid instructors also.
Right, and ours isn't, so which is even more of a reason not to walk in on his territory.
Even if they're residents of our community.
Yeah, even if they're the residents of the community, they still have to be certified and approved by the board.
So under what conditions would we look for or allow another tennis instructor to work here?
If we were requested by the tennis committee that they felt it needed another one, or if the existing tennis pro felt that there was too much workload and he needed assistance, then at that time, we may advertise on the street to get another instructor in here. Not necessarily have to be one from here. We would want to get the most certified, the most experienced person that we could get.
Doesn't seem like in the original decision to hire a tennis pro that there was much interviewing or discussion.
We didn't hire anybody.
You did by putting together a position description.
No, actually, what we did is appointed somebody to look after our amenity on our behalf, and that's what he's doing.
Okay. Well, I think I'll leave it at that. Thank you, I appreciate it. Let me say one other thing. To Matt's credit, I want to tell you something he did for me personally in the last week. I had a family emergency. He came out and got me out the courts and made a very difficult situation much easier. So thank you for doing that.
You're welcome. Head to the mic, please.
Hi, I'm Vera Stuck. I live on Kubera. And I just want to throw out my voice here in that, number one, when you classified the current pro as a pro, he doesn't do the things that pros that the other communities do. One of the things is our captain has to deal with all of the league. We have many leagues here, just about more than any community our size. And that's a lot of people that has to get communications back and forth between the league persons and who organizes us. You know, it takes a lot of organizing 20 or 30 teams. So that's one thing that other pros do in other communities that what you've labeled as this pro here isn't. I personally don't have anything against your current instructor. It's just that it's not enough for a large group of tennis players like we have. I know that your minds are already made up about this particular situation, but the tennis committee did not have full input from the public in general, the tennis people in general, and right here, you're not getting a whole lot of input regarding it before you take your vote. So it's sort of one-sided and not taking in everybody's opinion. And I think it would be perfectly okay to have other people instruct us out on the tennis court. They're not being paid, it's no money out of your pocket, and it's just a matter of getting a different type of lesson.
Thank you for your comments. Excuse me.
Ron Sotero, I have a question on this subject. How much is that costing the community?
Nothing.
That's what I want to hear.
And also keep in mind that we haven't had an issue and it's been working fine until just recently. So there has been plenty of time for public input. And the tennis committee did give us a recommendation, and that's kind of what we're going. That's why we have the committee, to take the recommendation. Any other comments? Yeah.
Hope Mallon, Lure Trail. I would just like to speak to what Matt said about the tennis committee and how the topic was presented. The topic of potentially adding a second pro was brought up at the last tennis committee meeting. I believe it was the beginning of the month. It was not on the agenda, so people did not know it was going to be discussed. I have been a prior member of the tennis committee. We were, and I believe they are, supposed to be representing the needs of the tennis community. If you don't ask the tennis community what they need or they want, then you'll likely never know. I was disappointed that the tennis committee didn't take the time to solicit some feedback and input from the community, the tennis community. The only way that people even knew that it was discussed, there were 20 people at the last tennis committee meeting, a few more than there are here tonight. People were not aware that this was even a topic of discussion. It's only become aware by the few of us that have spoken. So I am disappointed that the tennis committee failed to represent the tennis community on this topic.
Thank you.
Excuse me, I'd just like to add a comment, Hope, and thank you for your comments. I can't speak for the tennis committee. I'm not in the tennis community. I don't know what's going on. I only know what comes before the board. Our meeting tonight was properly noticed. It went out to all owners Friday. People are aware that it was on the agenda, action item, addition of a tennis pro. I'm disappointed that more from the tennis community have not come here this evening to express their views, because although there is information out there, it doesn't always come to us. And we aren't supporting small specialized cliques or clubs. We're supporting tennis within the Village Walk community. And sometimes that goes beyond the Players Club or the best tennis players. We want to support the sport for the benefit of everyone here. And with that inclusion, I think we also demand some feedback. And so that we can serve you, we need more information from your community. It was certainly not the board's failure that there was not outreach to other tennis players to find out what their opinions were. And I just maintain an open mind about the situation. I have not heard that a single pro has not been adequate to provide lessons to our members. If we had that feedback that he was not serving the role or the people who needed his services, then we would have a different position right now. So it's not fair to say that we've come here this evening with our minds made up. We just have not heard that much counter information.
I respect your comment, Bill. My comment was really geared towards the tennis committee and how they handled. They were asked by Matt to provide a recommendation on this topic. I feel, it's my opinion, that they should have reached out to the tennis community to let them know that this was a topic of discussion and ask them, do you feel the need? there's nothing wrong in a community this large. There's nothing wrong with choice. I respect Herbert. He is, he has some very loyal followers, but I don't think it's a secret or a surprise that many people go elsewhere for tennis instruction. Many of the tennis players, and I will speak for many of the women, would like an opportunity to not have to leave the community to take tennis instruction if they choose to do so with someone other than Herbert. So my disappointment is really with the tennis committee and the process that they used to come to this recommendation.
Can we hear from the tennis committee?
Before you go there, I just want to make a point. There's 7 tennis women here. This has been notified. Everybody knows that this is happening tonight, and nobody showed up. So apparently, there isn't much interest, and you want us to change a policy that affects the whole community for a few people. That's not something that we should be addressing. Go ahead, Ray, I'm sorry.
I just want to say, does anyone from the tennis committee would like to go to the mic? I mean, they should be heard from.
Rogerio Ramos, Quiet Waterway. First of all, let me address the fact that at the last tennis committee meeting, after the agenda was set, we were asked for a recommendation by the board concerning us adding a second tennis pro. We took that up, and there was discussion about it. Contrary to what Hope has to say here this evening, these ladies were here that afternoon, and they had an opportunity to speak. In fact, Ray, you were there, and Matt, you were there as well. And I think you were called upon to ask or answer some question that was presented. All right, I feel we do represent tennis community. You know, to say that we limited it to 20 people at this particular meeting is not accurately describing it. I'm out on the tennis court. I know these ladies are. They speak to tennis players on the tennis court. I speak to both ladies and gentlemen about this issue. So this wasn't rushed to, this wasn't just decided at the last minute. This wasn't, no, we didn't send out an email because we don't have that ability to say, hey, everybody who plays tennis, how about you weighing in on this? We had a meeting. It was added to the agenda. We were asked for a recommendation. We allowed discussion on it at length, at great length. Each of these ladies spoke, except I don't know if that Kathy had here. Okay, they had an opportunity to do so. And as Bill pointed out this evening, you know, we're here this evening to represent the tennis committee and tennis community. And I don't see any more people here, and it's on your agenda, speaking to the contrary. We don't feel at this point in time that there's a need for a second. And we voted as such.
Thank you, Roger.
Thank you.
Joe Ventry, Jewel Fish Court. No, I'm not a tennis player. And to me, Shakespeare's Much Ado About Nothing comes to mind with all of this discussion. Where I am concerned is, it sounds to me like we have one person and only one person who's allowed to give lessons to tennis. I'm not quite sure why we need to limit that, why we don't have a policy that says if you want to give tennis lessons here in Village Walk, this is a process you need to go through, and any instructor who goes through that process would then be allowed to give tennis lessons. Everybody, I would think anybody should be allowed to go to anybody they want as an instructor and have them come in here just like the tennis players currently have that one person. The reason why I bring this up is I'm sure several months down the line, the same exact thing is going to happen with pickleball. All right, pickleball is growing. We had great attendance this weekend at our tournament. We've got even greater attendance for the barbecue that we're having this weekend. More and more people are interested in it, and more people want to get serious about it. So the question is going to come up, what kind of instruction are we allowed to do for pickleball? Whatever you decide here, I think is going to set a precedent for what we're going to be able to do with pickleball. So I don't care which way you go. I just ask that you really consider, is one the right thing? Is it opening the door to anybody who can get certified the right thing, or what? Because it's going to affect pickleball later on.
It'll also affect the space that's taken too, because if you have one instructor out there at 8 o'clock in the morning giving classes, and you have 5 instructors that all have the same ability, you lost 5 courts every day at 8 o'clock in the morning. Same with pickleball.
Can't we say pickle, instruction can only be done from 1 o'clock to 3 o'clock in the afternoon?
Well,
I mean, why does it have to be at 8
Some of the
o'clock in the
residents want to be instructed in the morning, so you're going to, disable them from playing in the morning or having instructions in the morning? So
Set
there's so
up-
many
set-
rules, and that's why we asked the committee to give the
I
recommendation.
I understand that. It just,
Right.
I just hope we don't run into the same kind of problem.
I'm sure we will, and we'll look into it at that point. I mean, we may also look for an outside instructor that has, 10 years of experience teaching pickleball. Who knows? That hasn't come up at this point.
So I'm Kathy Everett. I'm the one who accidentally caused this commotion, if you will. I wanted to first of all say I've known Herbert longer than many of you. I've known him for like 20 years. He was good friends with my parents. So I have great respect for Herbert. But I think it was Joe, to your point, on the tennis website it says professional, individual, or group instruction may be given to Village Walk Bonita residents and their guests and visitors. Instruction may only be given by a certified USPTA or PTR member. Prior to giving instruction, the instructor must be approved by the HOA board. These individuals must provide proof of $1 million in liability insurance naming Village Walk of Bonita and KW Property Management as additional insured. So the point being here, and by the way, I also got pickleball instructor certified at the same time. The pickleball instruction certification simply required me to take the stuff over to the office, hand them the insurance certificate, and hand them my certificate of certification. There are also people in here who give instruction in the community center in the weight room. There are people who give swimming instruction. I presume they all turn in their stuff. It is only tennis that seems to require this extra step. But at the end of the day, no disrespect, Herbert, you're an awesome instructor, but at the end of the day, we are self-employed. Herbert doesn't work for Village Walk specifically. We don't cost Village Walk anything extra. The agreement and the decision as to whether a customer or a client is happy with what we offer is between us and the people we offer it to. If they evaluate us, if we give them a lesson or if we give them a clinic and they don't like it, they won't return to us. It does not, the actual evaluation does not involve anything in terms of the greater community, and we don't cost the community a cent. So that's my piece, and if there's any questions for me, I'm happy to answer them.
And there is a little bit of an expense because you're actually making money on our amenities, and that's a concern that we have. Whether resident or not, you're still doing a commercial application on our amenities. So the other amenities will be looked into. I did make the assumption, I shouldn't have, that we asked for board approval and insurance on all instructions. I know the pro or the instructor that's in the gym does. I'm not sure about the pool, but we'll go through all our instructors and make sure they're certified and insured and approved by the board. But at this time, is there any other comment from the floor? Seeing none, any comment from the board?
Well, I would just say that we had asked the tennis committee to give us a recommendation. And I think right now that we should follow the recommendation, but I would say to you that I think maybe the overall system of how we do professionals here ought to be revisited. Maybe my vote right now would be to vote no, because that's the recommendation that came from the committee. But Kathy makes a compelling argument in some of the things that she said, so I think it's worth looking at again as soon as the board would be willing to do that.
Any other comments?
Yes, I would agree with Randy for the most part. I was originally hoping very much for some type of compromise where Kathy could teach 12:30 to 5 and not impact the prime time. I thought it over. I spoke to many people in the tennis community. I play tennis here almost every day. I certainly don't object to Kathy, being a pro here at some point. I think what weighed heavy for me was, is there really a job opening that I think Herbert would be the one to ask, does he need assistance? Is there a job opening? And number two, for me, would be the recommendation of the tennis committee. And that weighs heavy with me. And I would love to see Kathy teach here at some point. But right now, I would go with the tennis committee's recommendation.
I would just like to add that I think it has to do with the position and not the people. You know, you're all great people. The question is, do we need a second tennis pro? I know that with Herbert, there are things that are not revenue producing that are expected of him in order to do the teaching. And a second person coming on, if that workload is somehow shared, that's another consideration. If they're doing it merely to have clients and be coaching people, then they're getting the revenue without doing that extra work that we have put into the job description that we've developed for the tennis pro. I think the message that I'd like to give is that, you know, I keep an open mind, and as new information comes before us, we can reopen it and reconsider it. But at this time, we have to go with a recommendation of the tennis committee.
Fair. And I'll say my last comments are, it's opened our eyes, and we will evaluate the complete system and every instructor in here, and how we go about assigning those titles. So seeing no more comments from the board, the motion was to allow a second professional. All in favor of that, say aye. All against, say nay.
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 Nay. At this time, we shall not allow a second professional. We'll open the floor for comments from the public at this time. Any subject you wish. Well, not in your case, Ron.
Craig Music, Trevally Way. Personal question. We bought in here about 10 years ago. Gate passes were allowed for the residents and family members. I have a lot of extended family that come in quite often. And for 10 years, it's never been an issue. But about a month ago, most of the additional passes have been terminated or canceled. They no longer work at the gate. I'm not sure if the board has made a decision on a policy that changed what they used to do, or if it's just a administrative issue, something's gone on. Any advice on that?
10, 5, what is it? It's always been the same.
My knowledge, since we've taken over the property, we do not give family members barcodes. That's why we ask for registration of the vehicle, unless they're renting the unit where they show proof that they're living there.
Okay.
So if you have a family member that their vehicle's registered here or their driver's license is here, we are going to go ahead and issue with the owner's permission, because you're not an owner. We will issue a family a barcode. If the family member is not residing in the unit, we are not issuing barcodes.
Okay, has that a policy the board's adopted? If so, I'd like to see the policy.
I think it's always-
Because that's a change from, and you can ask Tammy, she issued them.
For what Tammy always told me, family members were not allowed to have barcodes.
If you look at my account, you'll see there's 6 or 8 barcodes.
Are they registered to cars, Craig?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so you registered a car that
But they don't
resides here.
live in my home. They visit often.
Okay.
And they had passes for 9.5 years. Now, all of a sudden, the passes don't work.
I'm not aware of a change, but
Okay.
we'll check with,
Go into the people's accounts and disconnecting barcodes, so I can't speak on behalf of what Southwest did, whether they have their own policy, if that was not, they were issuing stuff they shouldn't issue, is what I would assume happened, and they must have put an expiration date or something on those barcodes, because our staff is not going into,
Yeah.
per se, your account and disconnecting barcodes. That's not something we do.
Okay, well, the barcodes have been discontinued.
I can't.
Okay.
disclose to you why.
Well, my question is this,
That Southwest put an expiration date, and that's why they're not working.
there's an expiration date on,
An expiration date.
I have had the same pass for 10 years.
I can't speak on behalf of Southwest did, but the only way those barcodes get disconnected, if Southwest hit an expiration date. We will issue a resident a barcode for a rental car. If I'm visiting here for 1 month, he can put it date specific. So I can only explain to you what and tell you what we're doing now.
Okay.
And that was the policy that Tammy explained to us and gave us, and we've been using that same procedure and policy. I can't speak for 10 years ago what they did.
Okay, is Tammy still here?
no.
Is no longer here. Okay. Could I ask the board to take a look at that?
Yes.
I mean, I have family coming in all the time, and now they're backed up, 20 cars trying to get through the gate.
Well,
And it's tying up the main gate is the problem.
Craig, I would like to add, we've put a lot of money into this community in the last year. We've enhanced all of our amenities, and we don't have an open gate for friends and family, for people who used to live here, or people who want to come in when you're not home. This is for our guests. When we live here, if they're accompanied by the resident, then they're welcome. It is not a pass for people to come and go, and we are keeping a tighter control of it, to be candid with you, than we used to, because we found a lot of abuse with it. And if it has to do with rewriting a policy, a formal policy, we're in the works right now with a number of the policies that will tighten up. But I think it benefits.
That wasn't my question. I don't have my children come in when I'm not here.
Well, you asked about the policy, though.
Yeah, but
And we're
I'm
rewriting
my question,
policies.
if there is a policy, I'd like to see it, because I don't remember one being adopted.
Well, we're rewriting it, and you'll see it when it's
Or you were
ready.
in process of doing that.
I think there was.
Is that what you said?
I think the old board had a policy that said you were allowed to have 5 permanent guests on your list. That policy probably still stands.
Okay.
As far as issuing barcodes, I don't know what that policy is. We'll look into it.
Okay, I'd like to see a copy of that policy, because it always been open, and now all of a sudden there's a problem. So that's why I'm wondering if there had been something that happened that I didn't see.
Yeah, I don't know if would be justified to allow 15 cars with barcodes in one house. I believe we'll have to look into
Well,
that.
and I think that's, I
But
mean, five I think is reasonable.
No,
15 certainly wouldn't be.
actually, you're issued 2 and 5 guests, and that's how it has always been. How you got more, I don't know, but we'll go through the barcode thing and we'll let you know.
Okay, thank you.
Yep. Let me make a note of that one.
Hi, I'm Vera again. Just in defense of this gentleman who I do not know, I happen to know for a fact that other people have their family members have barcodes, because don't write my name down, but our daughter has one also.
We're checking you out.
So, yeah, so I'm just saying, it's not just him and me, it's just like the tennis players, even though there's only 7 or 8 of the 300 here, I would imagine there's 2 of us out of maybe several other hundred that's got other guests.
And you're probably right, and we will look into it, but I don't think it's fair for everybody else to have more than 2 barcodes. Everybody else, we all were supposed to
Maybe they don't
get
have
2.
family and friends.
We have friends, you can put them in as a permanent guest, but to give a barcode out to, I don't believe that's correct. So we'll look into it. We will definitely look into it. Any other comments from the floor?
Barb Jans, Hammerhead. I have a neighbor, he's from Canada, and he rents out his house quite a bit. It's not 4 months. He does have somebody here now, January, February, and March, and they'll be leaving.
Your address?
28572 Hammerhead. But when we come in October, there's a bunch of guys golfing, and they're there a week. Then they leave, and then somebody else comes, and it seems like there's a lot of people from October till January before we finally get somebody there, 3 months.
It's actually supposed to be a 4-month minimal rental.
Yeah.
And that's, it's hard to police, but we are looking into that.
So where do they get all the barcodes to come in here?
They don't have to get barcodes. They can be put on a permanent guest list and come in through the other side, and that's something we have to look into.
Okay.
You don't need that barcode to get in. You just need to be on the list.
On the
So
list.
people scam the rental process by putting people on the list and say they're family or whatever. But by rights, it's 4 months minimum, and we are looking at properties now to make sure they do not receive barcodes more than 3 times a year, which would be every 4 months. So that whole can of worms will open up shortly, and we'll see if we can tighten up the gate a little bit.
Okay, because I know there'll be somebody in April probably, and I just thought you had to be a residence. And I know they have family, but I think this goes.
Oh, it could, and there's no way, just like you don't know who they are, we would have no way either. But we are looking into trying to find a way to police that a little bit better, and we'll see what happens. But you also have to realize that the people at the gate, the guard company, they are not the people to give slack to if it's not working out the way you want it to. That's a management's decision. They're following the rules. To get out of your car and give the guard a bunch of crap is just stupid. Everything's recorded, and they have the right to call Lee County immediately. You are assaulting them to some degree, so everybody has to remember, if you have a complaint at the guard gate, you come to see management. not the guards. That's not the way to handle this. So as we tighten up the gate more and more, there's going to be more and more unpleasant people because the rules are changing. And the gate is not the place to address that. You come to the office and we'll address it there.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Any other comments from the floor, except for Ron?
Quick ones. I have a question about, a while back, we had put out some information about roof cleaning and mold on the roofs. Is there anything being done?
Yes.
I haven't heard anybody getting any letters on my street in there.
I believe Kim sent the first letter around to all quads, and I think you're working on the second letter now?
Are you working one quadrant at a time?
Okay. She's got one more quad left for the first letter,
Oh, I see.
and then we'll go around. We're actually looking into hiring a compliance person. So at that time, we'll address those issues a little more aggressively.
The second item is channel 195 for the people that have fiber. Doesn't seem to be working. Still.
We were out here on Monday with Comcast and our AV gentleman, and the understanding is we are sending the signal to them. They're not able to convert it to the fiber and send it back in. People that are on cable may be able to receive it because we are sending it out. So that's a piece of equipment that they have to purchase. They are thinking about actually putting it into an app form. So it would be like Netflix. You go on your television, hit the app, and you'll get 2 channels, 195, 196.
Is there any time frame on that?
No,
Or just
it's like
open-ended?
everything else with Comcast. You're lucky you get TV when you get TV.
Yeah, right, I know.
Yeah, sorry about that. It's out of our control. Any other comments from the floor? I make a motion to adjourn.
Second?
A second.
All in favor? Aye. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Oh, it wasn't too painful.
I think that was good.
Thank you.
Thank you.